What was the toughest thing in life that you had to overcome then? Because I remember seeing you just speak at that event and you kind of you did a perfect presentation. But what was like the toughest thing you had to overcome in the journey then? Was it like
Hmm. So at that time, or I mean, there's definitely been tough things along the lines, right? And at different points in time. I think the toughest thing at that point in time, building out um the YouTube channel is I think it was at a certain point we talked about the sketch, videos and things like that. What I was doing those with friends. And then, kind of as I got into high school, it wasn't cool anymore, right? And there was this period of time where now less in high school, is more in middle school, but I was like bullied a lot, right? And so it was like one of those things. So that was probably at that time the toughest thing. It's kind of different than like people who maybe start their entrepreneurial journey like later on, like they have other things. So I'm not trying to diminish that, but that was probably the trickiest thing is that like it's funny to think now because apparently like it's the number one thing people want to be and like who are high school students now is like a YouTuber, but which is crazy, which is crazy. But back then, it like was not seen in the same way, and you probably, yeah.
You're amazing. I've done a lot of interviews, just, a little feedback. You're a great interviewer, too.
Never lose that magic, Jeff.
If it works, it must be PowerWorks. PowerWorks Company is our sponsor. Thank you for sponsoring this spot here. Listen, if you're looking for a full virtual system business that basically focuses on the best websites, right? Whether it's Wix, WordPress, go high level, which is so complicated. Man, Nathaniel and his team, and congratulations to him and his new wife that he married to, was going to be helping a lot with the bookkeeping and everything there. I put blessings over their business, but if you need a virtual assistant, right, especially in websites, then click the link below or reach out to me, DM me VA. I'll connect you with Nathaniel and his team at PowerWorks Company, okay? It's a company in the Philippines that really has some of the best gifted, most talented workers, especially in this AI movement that we all can't figure out. They're working while I'm working. So without further ado, go DM me under Jeff the Entrepreneur VA. We'll send it to you with our ManyChat of a form. If you apply and accept it, then we look forward to having you part of the PowerWorks family and team of people, really just being the best attention, diligent servants of the Lord here. And also, I do want to say one thing, that if you need a sponsor spot here, you're watching this right now, it wouldn't be possible, this podcast, without a sponsor here. So also you can DM me sponsor and you can fill out a form and we'll see if you can sponsor the next Make More Money podcast. Without further ado, let's get back to it.
All right, it's Jeff J here to make your day. I've never been more excited each time I book a guest or someone that agrees to come on the McMaroney podcast. When I started years ago, and I think it was Brad Lee who said yes, who I used to see all over my social media, which he's on. You can go back and listen to past episode. I was like a kid at a candy store and so nervous. Sometimes when you see people so much, what makes two people a celebrity is more screen time and less access. And someone who's done it is the guy who does ads, like no ad outreach, founder. Aleric Heck. Is you say your last name Heck?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, very good. If you haven't seen him all over YouTube, you're probably not a marketer like me. His face, his funnel, his team, everybody through and through, it truly cares about them. So if you're looking to do ads, we're going to dive into the whole crazy world of ads, my story, his story, and everything. But that's my little intro. Aleric, thank you so much for your time today. Tell people a little bit about you.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got to change
Well,
my phone number here. Go ahead.
thanks so much for having me on, Jeff. I'm excited to be here. And yeah, so I have an expertise around the power of video marketing and video ads. I wrote the book Video Authority, The Art and Science of Converting Viewers into Clients. And what it's all about is how to use the power of video in order to actually get real clients. So I actually got my start on YouTube almost 17 years ago, if you can believe it. And yes, I was younger at the time. I was doing YouTube in high school and college. I was one of those people that started off early creating videos, tech reviews, app tutorials, teaching people how to use their iPhone for the first time. I grew that channel to over 600,000 subscribers. And then I got into the ad side of things. And that's when I started running YouTube ads for the first time about a decade ago. And working with different brands. And then eventually I found the world that we're in, funnels and all kinds of incredible online entrepreneurs and internet marketing. And that's when I realized that I had the ability to help others with YouTube ads and not just, do it for people, but also teach people how to run YouTube ads as well. And so we built out a whole consulting and coaching process around helping people implement YouTube ads. We have a hybrid process where we can set it up for clients and then hand them the keys. And then over time, we've expanded beyond just YouTube ads to go into YouTube channel growth. And now, this year, with the launch of Video Authority and with bringing different people onto our team that now help with Meta video ads as well and other platforms, we now are expanding into full video marketing for businesses to help them get more leads and clients using the power of video.
Yeah, and by the way, we're in a trust recession more than ever. So by one thing that you've done, that and the part of the reason why like this is kind of an invite only podcast in a way, is you've put on like just the most in a very simple way, very systematic, the most trust authority. So I want to talk about trust, the trust recession with everything going on and how important video is there. And when did before we get there though, like so you didn't always go there. You were the guy doing tech review. Were you making money? Did you get into doing tech reviews to make money online when you first started?
So originally it was just to create content and videos that people would watch. The first 2 years I didn't really make any money because that was back when the YouTube Partner Program was application only. I actually applied 3 times before I got accepted. I got accepted on the fourth time for the YouTube Partner Program. Nowadays, right, they have thresholds. It's clear thresholds. In the past, they had a threshold, but that was the threshold to apply, and then they were only accepting a certain, type of people and or caliber, of channel. And the first few times I got denied, but it's a good lesson in entrepreneurship, right? Keep trying. But originally, I had a video camera. I was recording videos. I was putting them on a YouTube. I had a sketch channel, right? Obviously, as a kid, right? A lot of people do that. They film just like videos around, being like the channels in the past, like Smosh or those types of things, kind of creating content like that. And then I got an iPod, like the first generation, like iPod Touch or iPhone, and I ended up taking a video of that and showing some of my favorite apps. And that video started to get a lot of viewership. And I realized, wait a second, people actually care about what I'm talking about here. What if I keep doing that? And so I started creating more and more videos, got more popular, started teaching people how to use their iPhone for the first time. And then those were the videos that really took off. And then I got into the YouTube Partner Program, and then that's when I realized, oh, I can actually make some significant money there. And I was doing that, in high school and into college with that channel, and then got into the ad side later. We could talk about that story if you'd like as well.
Yeah, no, but that's crazy because so very similar to me. My dad sold JVC camcorders, and he used to give them to me and my brother. Very similar, like Logan Paul or Jake Paul. We used to just film little shorts around, right, and post them.
Yeah.
There's actually probably a channel I gotta find it of that stuff. And back then, my views were like crazy, like you know what I mean, because I was just posting stupid stuff in the back day. But it wasn't until I found it got in the whole world, found Grant Cardone, Tony Robbins, all these guys, lost my brother. That then I was like, hey, I'm going to document the journey. It was Gary Vee was a big thing. I'm going to document the journey of me building a coffee shop and honor my brother, right? And then dude, it's so funny because I've been the most like I wasn't even trying, but when I first did my first logo, I collect hundreds. This is when I was working at a restaurant, right? I started trying to change the money mindset. I would wear a backwards hat and my branded shirts, and I'd run YouTube ads to them. But I had no idea what I was doing, and I wasn't selling any product. So, but I did it right in my location in Southington, where I used to live. So people would be like, "Oh my God, we see you! You're the guy with the hat who's going to build the coffee shop." And that was when I realized, wow, YouTube ads work. Since then, I was just burning money for no reason because Grant's thing was just get known. So I was like, oh, I'll just take all my server money and put it to get known, right? And then when a few videos went viral, I realized, oh, wow, this content game, the organic game really works. So obviously you got into ad spend side of it. What was the, like, have you always been entrepreneurial? Like, because running a whole business in a system, did you have anything when you were young like that?
Yeah, so definitely, I had the classic lemonade stand even before that. I was always doing different things. It was funny. I was actually at because I'm here in Austin, there was a South by Southwest event, networking event the other night, and they had they had a panel of speakers, and they were asking kind of that panel of speakers what their first dollar that they ever made, not online, but just dollar in general. And there was the lemonade stand. I'm like, yep, I did that. Somebody was like selling candy in class. I'm like, actually, I did that one too, and there was another one where I realized they had the snack bar at one of my, at the, I think that was even like back when I was in like middle school, where they had a snack bar. And I realized, well, wait a second, if I wait in line, people would give me their change. So if I buy them like a 65-cent bag of chips, they would just give me $1, and I could get them the chips, and I could stand in line, and I could do that for a bunch of kids and like just get the difference. And so it's funny. I always had that kind of
How
entrepreneurial
old were you
mindset.
how old were you?
I mean, with that, probably like maybe 10, 11, 12, something like
So do
that.
you think, let me ask you this, do you think entrepreneurship is it can be taught or something you're born with? Because I connect with all that stuff. And it's funny, when I taught the behavioral middle school kid, they had me run the bodega where I sold the chips out of it, right? I had
Yeah,
to
yeah,
keep the money for the school and stuff, which I did. I had no investment here.
yeah.
But I was always just like the same thing. And I love doing that. I love the exchange of services, right? Or just figuring out what it is. So like, do you think it's born or do you think it's something that can be taught?
I think that there's a little bit of both. I think like a lot of things, there's a little bit of both. My parents always said, because they were more in like, or my dad being more like a software engineer, and my mom more into like books and writing and things like that. Like basically, it wasn't like entrepreneurial like from them per se, although they always pushed me to be my best, and I really look up to and respect them. But I think it's a little bit of both. They always kind of said that I was a natural born entrepreneur. Like my childhood hero was Billy Mays. Like I'd watch Billy
Yeah,
Mays
me too.
commercials. I would
Yeah.
go back.
Yeah.
Exactly. I would go like
Yeah.
quoting. It's like, I'm Billy Mays, but wait, there's more. And so I would go and do that stuff. And so they kind of said that they always knew.
Move on, get it now. Da, da, da. Yeah, dude. I used to do.
Exactly.
We
So
used. That's
I think there's a little bit of that, but I also think that it's cultivated over time. And I do think that other people, if they have a skill set, maybe they're not going to be the same type of entrepreneur that we are, but they can be, they can learn how to apply principles to help sell whatever their expertise is. So I think there's a little bit of both, but there definitely are people like us that like it seems to be from the very beginning. It's like entrepreneurship is in our DNA.
Yeah, and God give us a gift to grow where like
Yeah.
even you expanding right now, telling me what you're doing, dude, I just hear like the amount of challenges you are expanding into meta and stuff. But it's like we're born to do that stuff. We're born to take on the
Yeah.
challenge. We just keep challenging ourselves. It's like it's how God made us. We can't lay on a beach all day. We can live in these beautiful cities and not enjoy any of them because we have to grow. I totally connect with that. It's funny because we used to do commercial talk or used to do things with my dad. I remember we used to do like,
A lot.
all
And
right,
my
sorry.
CTO is using Cloudbots, but yeah. Okay.
All right, pick it up, Nathaniel. All right, so but going back to that, so when was the point when you first started making money online?
Yeah. So, well, the first dollars I made online was from the YouTube Partner Program, and it was, it's kind of funny, because I remember I finally got accepted. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. And then it was like, all right, you need to sign this legal paperwork, and I'm like, and I wasn't 18 at the time, right? I think I was maybe like 14 or 15, and I had to have my dad like co-sign the paperwork, to basically get accepted into the YouTube Partner Program. And I remember bringing it over, and always, very supportive of me, both of my parents, right? My mom really teaching me to like be the best version of myself, and my dad really pushing me to have a strong work ethic, like he did, and so essentially, but I remember it was kind of funny because he's like, all right, I looked this up, and just so you know, like I don't want you to get your hopes up, like people don't make like a lot of money from this. Like I hope you know that. Like I'm gonna sign this, like it's gonna be good, but I just don't want you to get your hopes up too much. And I remember saying, "We'll see." And then next thing you know, I was a sophomore in high school, and I had made $60,000 in the last year from YouTube. And I remember distinctly, I was showing a friend. This was like in like a break, like because I kind of forget, because it's so long ago, like how these classes work or whatever. But it was like a break to work on something in the like when they had the computer lab or whatever, and the older, old school computer, all of those different computers or whatever. And so I was like basically just working on some stuff, and the teacher came over, and it's like, what are you looking at? And I'm like, oh, this is my YouTube channel, and this is like, and he's like, oh, that can't be right. I'm like, what do you mean? This says you made $60,000, with this like, that can't be right. I'm like, oh no, it is. Look, see, that's like the YouTube ad revenue. And then his face went white, and he said, that's more than I make. And that's when I realized, wait a second, I actually have something that's producing a significant income. Now, of course, I also think that, teachers are underpaid because, there are incredible teachers. I was a great, teacher there. So, obviously there's a commentary, that's a separate commentary, but in terms of actual, like, realizing, wait a second, because I didn't really have, I knew I wanted to build and accumulate and do those things, but that was when I, for the first time, had a concept of, oh, I can actually make real money, because I didn't know the difference between, at that point, really. Like, I mean, I kind of conceptually knew, but the difference between 60,000 and, maybe the thousands of dollars I had made before, it's like, I knew it was bigger, but I didn't know, like what the levels were out there. And I think that was when it opened my eyes to say, oh wow, like this, I guess, isn't normal for me to be doing that in high school or whatever. So it's kind
Well,
of
so
funny.
but that's what I love about these stories because I have a lot of my former students. I used to teach behavioral middle school, coding, video editing,
Yeah.
music studio, and I was teaching at the elective of how you can make money on YouTube because I knew it was a thing and I always wanted to do it, right? And at the time, that was when I forget when this was 2013 maybe or whatever, 2015, right? But at the time, I loved it. I remember teaching with all these kids, and the kids, like, if your videos were problem, I probably would show you in class, right? I think Billie Jean marketing was one of the guys I showed, right? Because he's just
Yeah.
phenomenal, right? So I was just showing all this stuff, and they didn't believe it, like a lot of kids, and then they started to believe it. The course is called Money Management. So, all right, so now you're making money on the YouTube program. You paid $60,000. What's like, let me ask you this then. What was the toughest thing in life that you had to overcome then? Because I remember seeing you just speak at that event and you kind of you did a perfect presentation. But what was like the toughest thing you had to overcome in the journey then? Was it like
Hmm. So at that time, or I mean, there's definitely been tough things along the lines, right? And at different points in time. I think the toughest thing at that point in time, building out um the YouTube channel is, I think it was like, it was at a certain point we talked about the sketch, videos and things like that. What I was doing those with friends. And then, kind of as I got into high school, it wasn't cool anymore, right? And there was this period of time where, now less in high school, is more in middle school, but I was like bullied a lot, right? And so it was like one of those things. So that was probably at that time the toughest thing. It's kind of different than like people who maybe start their entrepreneurial journey like later on, like they have other things. So I'm not trying to diminish that, but that was probably the trickiest thing. Is that, like, it's funny to think now because apparently, like, it's the number one thing people want to be, and like who are high school students now is like a YouTuber, but which is crazy, But back then, it like was not seen in the same way, and you probably, yeah,
not at
remember.
all? By the way, I connect
Exactly.
with you so much. Like, although I turned out to be somewhat decently good looking, I was the coding geek who played all the cards right back in the day. Then I
Yeah.
wanted to get the girl. I would get picked on, so I want to get girls. So I started playing football and tried to become a jock. But I should have never given coding. And it's funny because I think about it later on. And then I coded one of our software, the guys. I was just like, man, I was right all along. I should never quit this space, because I tried to fit in so much. And to be honest, I never fit in. And there's that whole quote, what is it? Why blend in when you're born to stand out, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's so true in so many different things. So I definitely connect with that. What was the main, like, so that was cool. So you were getting like, talk about being bullied. Like, when you were getting bullied and stuff, at least for me, I was always like, I was keeping it in his memory, almost like Jordan, right? Watch one day, right? Kind of like what you said
Yeah.
with your dad, right? I think Dave Grutman wrote a book called Take It Personally. That's the name of his book. I get that title, right? Patrick Davis' book is Choose Your Enemies Wisely, right? Like, you have to have it. So, like, because I think God gives us a version of like our little bit of Goliath because he knows it drives us, right? So I'm almost thankful to all the things. That's why I don't even like really like I think it's just a part of it. But what was like that part? Just talking to one of my students right now, they're listening to this, that they're being bullied. Maybe they have some inner genius, especially maybe they're hitting off on these Claude AI stuff that we got going on. What would you say to them right now when they're going through something like that?
Yeah. Well, I think the thing is to understand that, like, it comes out of, well, later on. So as you're pursuing the entrepreneurship, it comes out of jealousy. I think earlier on, it usually, like, when kids are bullying younger, I think where it comes from is from their parents. And so I remember distinctly. So I'll give two examples, right? So like in the one of the bullies I had in middle school, I remember realizing, the first time that I saw his, and I was still a kid, right, obviously at the time, but his father drunk and actually like threaten my father, which is crazy. And I remember the conversation with my parents is like, he's probably beating the kid. I mean, not probably, like almost definitely, but like, that kid, and then that's why he would bully me. And so it's like, unfortunately, this kind of cycle. And so you can look back and you can feel, sorry for you can look and say, okay, like obviously what he's doing is not right there, but you can see that pattern, which, obviously needs to be broken. And hopefully that person has, broken that pattern, right? But and then later on, the interesting thing is I actually got bullied more in middle school, and then right at the beginning of college. Now I don't know if we call it bullying, not bullying, but whatever. But like there was just this very I remember kind of diving in and basically I was working on my business, and there were some people that I think through jealousy were just, really, because I was like basically the, especially like my freshman year, I was like in my room, I was like working on my business, and I didn't, drink at the time. I didn't like, and definitely didn't, do any drugs or anything like that. But also like at that time, I was just like, all right, I was working on that. I had my classwork, I had that. And I just remember, basically certain, elements of people, saying some negative things, or just saying, oh, he's like weird, don't associate with that person. But I think that like the thing is like I remember just being like, well, wait a second, I have a business that at that point was doing six figures, a year, and later I moved off of campus and stuff, but to the like off campus like housing or whatever. But I'm just like, well, wait a second, like I've got this business. I'm confident and sure of myself. And like, just because I don't want to go and do, what these other people are doing, like, you know,
Partying, all
they can,
that.
yeah, they can do what they want, but but at the same time, like, we're gonna ultimately like, now at that time, now I actually have a much kinder heart towards this as well. And it's like I've also had my own like personal kind of faith journey recently as well, over these past few years, to kind of look back at things. But at that time there was a little bit of this like, well, they're going to reap what they sow, and I am going to do this. And certain things turned out. Now though, I try to have more of like an overall, like because I think that there's a degree of that, like what you're talking about with like Michael Jordan, but also it can turn into a little bit of like a negative, or like a kind of callousing of towards other people and their own things. And different people mature at different rates. And I think that was the thing, is like, because I had a business that was doing that, I had aspirations. I did not want to get a job after college. And even though I know it's crazy, you're like, oh, you're making already, like, it was like $140,000 a year, like with a YouTube channel. Like it seems crazy, but like what I was hearing from my parents was like, all right, like, well, go get an intern. I'm like, I'm hiring an intern, and like later on, they realized, but like, I was hearing, okay, if I don't build the business bigger than this channel, like I might have to get a job after college, and I didn't want that. So I was like, all right, like, what is the next thing? And then I launched ad outreach from my sophomore, college dorm room. So a year later, and that's where I, kind of scaled that from there. Which was more of an exponential business. Because the thing with the YouTube channel is it did have fluctuations. So even though it made good money, the thing is, I'm very glad I made that pivot, because there definitely are channels that still are around to this day, but there are kind of like there's like a life cycle. It's also easier to burn out, because it's very much like you're like in camera, like you're the person who has to, be in, and doing that content. It's a little bit more linear, right? Effort in equals dollars out. You can hire some other people to help you with that, but it's just a different model. So, anyways,
No, no,
hopefully
no.
that's helpful.
But no, that's so helpful, dude. I love what you said, because when I went to college, I went to community college, right? And I went to become a teacher because I just love teaching. My mom was teaching. And I wound up, it's funny because I got kicked out of class trying to be with the cool kids, right? These kids who he had his ice luge business, right? Which wasn't really a business, he's kind of a businessman, but wasn't the type of business I grew up in, right? I always grew up Pentecostal Baptist church all the time. And now I'm out in the world, right? And I'm trying to fit in. I remember getting kicked out of class. We all got kicked out together. And this was when I was in college. And then the guy pulled me aside. It was first year experiences. This is a dean. And he said, Jeff, you're not part of these guys. You're really smart. You need to stay there. And I just still remember that conversation. It still had impact on me today. I hate it. And then there was another girl that was a class. And I still remember she wrote on the board. Her name was Nancy, whatever, and she wrote feminism. She said, "What does this mean to you?" And I was like, "A challenge," right? And I was always that guy, right? So then she wrote down the word Bugatti, and she's like, "This, we'll never see this. This is money I'll never have. It's a beautiful car." I never even knew that car. Now I'm around here, like five of my friends have Bugatti, but and I remember thinking then, "Oh, if I want that car, I'm gonna get the car. I don't care like how much, right?" In that, well, when I was younger, right? So it did shape me in a certain way. I played soccer in the thing I was trying to fit in. And then I went to computers class. And this was the thing. I was already making a little bit of money online, right? And then the computer guy was the most I felt like I knew more than the teacher, right? So then I was just like, college isn't for me, man. I gotta start my own business from that. That's kind of where I had that whole I always had that journey. It wasn't until I lost my brother that I really, fair pushed me into that. What was well, so okay, let's talk about this. Now you go to ad outreach, you're like this. Did your brand ever blow up before your business? Like your YouTube channel was going so good that like a lot of people saw you, were trying to like, get in contact with you before like you even had a business or systems. Did that ever happen to you?
Yeah, so to a degree, now with the original YouTube channel, it was actually a faceless channel. Now it wasn't what people
Just
call
sketch.
faceless channels now that have like AI and stuff. It because obviously that wasn't around then. But it was like you could hear my voice, I was speaking, you could see my hands showing mobile apps. At one point later, I would like kind of port the screen to the screen or whatever. But basically, like you could see either my hands using the phone or you could see the screen casted of the
I
of
probably
the
watched one
phone.
of your videos and I didn't even know it. You know what I mean? Like looking at the latest gadget,
It, it's possible because I had at one point at its peak, I had the top ranking video for the term iPhone tutorial. And some of those iPhone tutorial videos have millions of views. That the top one, like kind of the peak, was like that iPhone 7 tutorial
Oh,
has 8 million views. That was also the time a lot of people got an iPhone for the first time. So
right.
like that video, and it's something that I'm like, looking back and not saying this to brag, I'm like proud of. Like I
Yeah.
taught millions of people how to use their iPhone for the first
Yes.
time. And the comments that, people are like, thank you so much. Like I just learned how to use like, my phone and things like that. And so what I did that was different, and this is what I also learned too, is over delivering. I created a free video that is an hour long teaching people how to use their iPhone from A to Z. And I just released it for free on YouTube. Now, obviously, it had ads. Eventually, I got sponsors. So you talked about people reaching out. Like at one point, I was having 50 to 100 emails every day to
Wow.
my YouTube channel email, 50 to 100 a day with
Wow.
apps. Now, I would say 95% of those people wanted a free feature, right? Hey, here's my
Right.
app.
Yeah.
Can you show it? But 5% were like at least willing to have a conversation, and maybe like what was it, like maybe 1% or even less actually turned into a sponsorship. But I ended up doing hundreds of sponsorships.
No, it's funny because even me today, I thought like I get like 5 to 10 like per week. Okay, hey,
Yeah,
we see your channel. Can you sponsor us free? Same thing, still get it, and I get overwhelmed with that. Right? I could
yeah.
only imagine that as well. We actually do have a sponsor spot we put on this podcast too that we'll put in. And we vet it. How did you pick who you would get sponsors for that? How would you vet it?
So of course I did want it to be so the first thing that I would do is I would filter out. I had an email that I would send, and eventually I actually hired somebody, another college student, to do this on my behalf because it was a crazy amount of time spent responding to emails,
Yeah.
and even just copying and pasting, right? But basically people would reach out with apps because at one point we were like, and it depends on how you measure it, right? Like in terms of a channel that mostly focused on app reviews, we were the top or one of the top channels. And we were also on lists of you publish a new app. And this was during the app heyday when everybody was publishing an app. Publish a new app. And literally there were multiple lists that said sponsor an app find video because they knew that they would pay that like 500 bucks or $1,000 or whatever it was. So they're just for different tiers. And they would get thousands of users for their app. So it was just like, it just was a no brainer. It made sense. But also I made money from it. So everybody won. It was a really cool
Right.
thing. And so, but people would reach out. A lot of people wanted a video for free, but they didn't realize that. So then I had to say, like, we get 50. So I had and I just
Tell
test this
them.
over time. It's like we get 50 to 100 requests per day. We will keep your application in mind. However, the way to guarantee a video on the channel is to do a sponsorship. If you're interested, let me know and I can send you my rate card. And then a certain amount of people would say, yes, I'm interested. That would weed out a lot of people, though.
Oh,
Like
that is
that
great copy right there. That alone, I wish I had that like years ago, because I was typing up
yeah.
We have our own. It's funny because I'm doing the copy and paste thing, and I have Shalom, one of my VAs, who
Mhm.
answers it all. We're actually trying to load an AI agent, so anytime we get that request, it just sends that message, right? That's what we're doing right now. So my computer's acting all weird. But okay, so all right, let's talk about. By the way, one thing I love that you talk about your faith, and one person that I actually do look up to is Tim Tebow. And no matter where it was at, he just always leads with love all the time, right? He has that Mother Teresa, that Martin Luther King Jr. way about him, right? You kind of have that too. And although I have the chip on my shoulder, I have more of that part I want to lean in, right? Give it to the Lord. Where did your faith come into a part of your life in there? Like, did you grow up Christian or what that like? Because you grew up in Texas, right?
No, so I actually grew up in Massachusetts,
Oh, okay.
and
So
then I moved out here 5 years ago, and actually kind of mirror some of that too. And what I'll say too is I'm still like, as with everybody, right? Growing, in all areas, including growing in my faith as well. I think we talked about that at one of the events that we saw each other at. And so I actually, grew up in Massachusetts. I went to a different kind of, church out there, and like when I was there, it was a little bit more like kind of like loose and like it was a different kind of
like
experience, right?
like Pentecostal or
No, it was basically it was like a newer age, right? If that makes sense, and kind of like it kind of yeah, it blurred the lines, we'll say. And I felt like there was something a little bit like missing there, and what I ended up discovering, right, it was like it actually having that direct kind of relationship with with God and with Jesus. And so that's something where when I came out here to Austin, I had a friend introduced me to a church out here, non-denominational Christian church, and ended up starting to go there, and that helped me grow in my faith as well. And that's been a really great experience. And so it's like one of those things where I think that you know, I knew like to some degree, like earlier, like because I was involved in something, but it wasn't like quite there. So I knew, okay, there had to be something a little bit more. Then I kind of got distracted by building my business, and I was just really focused on that. And then, at the right time, which is right, the timing that we talk about, right, is like at the right time it entered into my life. But what I will say is I still am on that journey as well. And I think also like yeah. So basically, I'm still on that journey as well, and growing in those areas. But it just made so much sense when I look at like, okay, here's how I show up and focus and want to create a big impact in the world. And it's like, all right, this is why I'm drawn to that, and the God-given gifts of being entrepreneurial and all of that as well. So that's kind of been my journey on that side.
No, dude, I love it, man. And me and you are very similar. I always kind of knew. I'm so glad to be doing this with you because, like, when I started, right, and I started business, then I moved to Miami. I had a 4 unit, I sold it. I made a bunch of money in the sale, right, like 82K. I closed a couple workshops for 3 grand. I have like 100K in my bank account. And I remember being scared, being like, oh, now I got to build a coffee shop. I don't know what to do. And I wanted to get a job waiting tables and waiting tables because that's what I always did throughout the teaching career, right? That was made the most money. And I wanted to Uber because I want to learn about Miami and the areas because I used to do that in Connecticut. And it was just not really good money in Connecticut. I would be in Miami. And my buddy talked to me and said, no, man, you helped me with my course to 30K. And I did it all organically. By then I got hurt with ads because I couldn't figure out ads. So I just started doing organic and I coded an AI software that did auto DMing. So I got really good at copy, right? So because of that, I blew up on Clubhouse. I started helping people with copy. I started getting paid a lot of money for copy. Well, how the Lord will have it, I got caught in my business. I move out here. I'm wearing a vest. I wasn't wearing my shirt. I'm trying to be this big consultant, right? And the whole deal. And when I did that, I wound up going. My buddy was like, "Hey, let's go to Colombia." So we wound up going to Colombia, and to save money was the deal. I want to get my teeth fixed and learn Spanish. And instead, I found God there. I was at a conference, Grow from God, with Glenn Lundy, and I prayed. I was like, God, I don't care if like, am I supposed to build this consulting firm, right? Because I kept like, this is not me. We all get there, right? And then a pastor told me, God, here's the answers. Yes. I fast forward months later, I'm in Colombia. I go to pay my dad actually at the time. He was working with me and my accounts are wiped to zero, right? We're still recovering from this. And when that happened, I prayed again. And then Shalom and Nathaniel, who still work for me today, they're in the Philippines. They texted me the verse Jeremiah 29:11, which is for I know the plans I have for you. I pray, I get on my knees. I'm like, God, I'll give you everything if anything happens. I'll always give you credit first, right? Because I would put business here and God here, right? Business here, Jesus here. And now it's like the Lord here and business here, right? He's my foundation. He's my rock, right? And it's just cool because like that's how it was always meant to be and supposed to be. And I kind of, did get sidetracked. And then after I prayed that, Angela Duncan, when I was in insurance, but she wired me 30K. I wound up going to VU Church, which is down here, got my faith a lot stronger. And it was like they were doing got to get my money right. So it was just that was the testimony then. And then as I saw like people of faith, and I know it's always like good for business to be saved. Like I've had people say, yeah, I believe in God, sign these papers, And I'm like, no. Because if we really believe what we believe, when you're born and die, like that's really why we're here. Making money is cool, but you don't get to take everything with you, So what's your why? What's your fulfillment of your purpose? Like you build ad outreach, right? You're seen everywhere, but what really drives you?
Yeah. And so our mission at Outreach is to empower entrepreneurs to amplify their impact and create a ripple effect in the world. And that's the thing that I really love is, when we work with people that actually, have the solutions that people need, right? Like what are businesses? They solve problems that people have, and there's different degrees, right, of how that's being done. But they help and benefit people. And so if we can help those businesses get in front of the people who need their support, then we're creating a positive ripple effect. And that's the thing I really like. So I even look at like, I'll give one example client, right? So one client that we work with, absolutely amazing, person, Jared Ernie, and he basically helps local businesses with their Google My Business profiles. And I remember during, and we were working with him, especially during 2020, right when businesses were really, really struggling. Local businesses were struggling. Their Google My Business profile is like what would make a massive change to really help them, be able to survive. Like some of these businesses were going out of business, and so. But they didn't know that he existed unless he was able to go and reach them. And so we helped them craft a marketing strategy originally at that time with YouTube ads, right? Getting in front of those business owners saying, hey, here's what I can do to help you. Here's how I can support you. And he had a goal of impacting over 1,000 businesses. He was able to achieve that goal and exceed that goal. And the stories that he told about the people that our ad strategy helped him reach those people, that literally they were going to like lose their business, or they were, or it allowed them to be able to not only grow their business, but actually help support all the people that work on their team. And so by us helping him, it creates a ripple effect that extends to his business, which serves a local community, which serves all of their clients, which has other employees and their families. And so that's the way I really look at it. And that's how I really align our team, is to be able to create that ripple effect of impact. And then one of the other things we do too is we also have a charity partner that we work with, B1G1, that basically every time, like their kind of thesis is, what if every time you do business, good can happen in the world, which I really love. And so, in addition to the ripple effect with individual businesses, also being able to amplify that impact, out in the world as well. One of the big causes that we donate to is clean drinking water, because it's crazy to me how many people don't have access to that. And just even something so basic that we take for granted. And so, being able to, to do that as well is also really powerful. So we believe in creating ripple impact, both through the clients that we serve and then also through the causes that we support as well.
Yeah, dude, I love that. I got to add on some sort of causes I get going. And by the way, I love everything about what you said there, because so many times I think, we just think we kind of look past. We're trying to solve the problem, and it is that. I remember talking to my first mentor. I sold windows for this guy, and I said, "Hey, Joe, what drives you?" And he goes, "Paying my guys." He's like, seeing them go out to thing, right? Because he gave his guy a raise. He really felt good about this. Guy had all the real estate in the thing, and I always think about that. And even now, today. Or like there was, I think, one client too that his name's Robert Damigella. He owns a multifamily finance insider mastermind, right? And with this one guy that he wanted to hire on for his like executive assistant, was at his last ropes, didn't have a job. Because we were able to generate money in this, he was able to hire this guy. Now the guy's working in private equity in some other job. I remember talking to him, interviewing him, and he felt lifeless on the phone. He just was beat down. And I remember saying to Robert, "Hey, I don't know if this is the best guy to hire, like really for our company right now." He's like, "No, we got to give him a shot." And because you're able to change lives, like businesses change lives. You know what I mean? Like, and same thing with you with the client in Google Ads, like how many people in ripple effect it has is amazing to have a cause. So, okay, what What's your best relationship advice? So these are like the 5 questions I asked. So are you married? You're not married yet. Are you married?
It's just me right now, but I'm like dating and pursuing my future wife. So but yeah, so
Well, so
just me
he's
right now
single,
though.
ladies.
But
He's
yeah, I
single.
know.
And
Watching the
where are you,
podcast.
Austin, Texas? Go find
Yeah,
him.
I'm in Austin, Texas.
A
Yeah.
God-driven, successful man at our age. But probably just ladies, if you're with either of us, we work all the time, but we will make time for you, right? We'll make an hour. I got to figure out how to do that. But my point is, so business relationship, obviously build business relationship.
Mhm.
I've had, I've never had. I think by asking this question, having this podcast early. Sorry, I have another podcast at 12 that we have coming up too. We jammed them back. So, but what's your best relationship in business? Like how you, because obviously you don't do this yourself. I've spoken to members of your team, seen it, and one thing about ad outreach and your core values, how they're so in, you can just tell a strong. I love business, right? You guys were you responded really quickly. On top of that, it was all the same heart. Like they really care.
Mhm.
So what built that culture at outreach, and how do you have that business relationship there?
Yeah. So I think it's really aligning the team with the culture first and really adhering to that and being strong with that. And we have full team huddles twice a week. We do Monday and Friday bookends. And we always, read our core values and live by our core values and remind, all of our team, like this is what we really want to be and embody. And so our core values are an acronym. It's LEAD. It's lead with passion and excellence, empower successful clients, act with integrity, and dream and grow together. And those are, kind of the core principles that we embody as a team.
Well, so I was because I have a core creed kind of that we do and that we do, but yours is shorter. I got to make mine shorter. I was reading it. There's a girl who wanted to do sales for me last night. She was like, "I want to work with you," blah blah blah. So I'm reading her core creed, and I could tell her eyes are glazing over, and that's like everything to me. I'm like, if you don't stand with this is what we
Yeah.
fire and hire people by, you know. So, but no, dude, I love that. What's the best money tip for somebody? Let's say, they've been crushing it for a little bit. They know where they're going, right? But they're now like right now the world of AI, and I want to get into a little of that too, right? Like right now, I want to max out a credit card for AI agents to just figure this out and have AI agents talk to each other for my business, like. But like that's the risk, right? Entrepreneurs, the vision is greater than what's the best money tip for an entrepreneur, kind of like ourselves here that you
Yeah, so the money tip that I would say is the best like investment you can make is in yourself because that will pay massive dividends over time. And and that's not to say to make unwise investments, right? So you want to make sure you're making the right investments. But if you invest in yourself, that's the type of investment that's going to really compound because you're betting on yourself. And so, I am also an advocate for, investing in, different retirement accounts and stock market and different things, but those are going to always they're going to fluctuate. You look at the compounding over time, there's great opportunities, but the biggest returns you can get is investing in yourself first, your business second, and then also going out and investing in other areas as well. And then of course also remembering to be charitable as well and support in other areas. But in terms of talking about investments, really people discount investing in themselves. So usually people skip over that and they look at the business and they look at financial, or they don't even look at the business. Sometimes they just look at, all right, what are these, market investments? But that's investing in other people and other things, which is good. It spreads out, there's over time you're going to get returns, but why not bet on yourself first is the question I would always ask. And Tony Robbins talks about that too, is the S&P me is where you want to put it in first.
Yeah. No, but that's very true. And I kind of hammer down on that. Like I was the type of guy when I got into all that, the whole personal growth world, there was no problem. I liquidated my 401k to move to Miami and buy business, but I like bought tickets to like a mastermind or Russell Brunson, one of these deals, right? I forget which one it was, but I remember being like, no, I have to invest in myself. What about with ROI? Because one thing I'll always do, and this is me as the branding marketing guy, I like when I run ads, I don't look at the analytics, which is like horrible. Okay. This is why I would connect someone with you. I was just like, great, we got that much reach. We're good. Brand impressions are cool, right? So what about the best money tip? As I'm going to start launching ads again, we're going to hire some people on, we're going to go in this as well. Pretty soon we're getting everything ready for it. What's the best money tip with running ads? Because I then would look at my account and be like, man, I spent all this money in ads, and like I probably should watch where it's going,
So So you do want to look at the return. I think the thing that I would look at is there's two areas. What I would do is when it comes to branding, there's two sides to your marketing. There's your cold traffic and there's your warm traffic. There are so many people out there that you don't have to just go and try and reach anybody with your cold traffic ads, like what you're saying, and just say, okay, I've got this reach. Because if they're not actually going to turn into clients, like then you're not going to be able to replenish the machine to scale bigger. So what I'd really focus on is on your cold traffic, really looking at, okay, what's the return on ad spend? What's the ROAS that you're getting or the ROI that you're getting on those ad dollars that you're putting in? Because then as long as you're making that return, sure, not everybody's going to buy, but you're also getting brand impressions. Now, on the other side with your retargeting, that's where, let's say you have a list of 10,000 people, right? So you've ran ads, you've got 10,000 people. That's where you look at the branding and say, okay, how many impressions can I get in front of those people? Because now at that point, you're warming up your warmest people and you're getting, ads in front of them again and again until they're ready to convert. And so what I would say is you have those two sides of it. You've got your cold traffic and then you have your retargeting, but your cold traffic, I would really focus on getting a direct return because that's actually going to allow you to be able to scale up the ads and then therefore get a bigger reach and bigger impressions. But it's not just about that. It's also about the return that comes in, which funds the whole machine. So I would focus on that. I also don't think you as the, entrepreneur and the founder needs to be the person that does that, right? So there's, different people that you can work with, whether it be on your team or in different capacities, right? I'm actually a big advocate for having a hybrid approach. So one of the ways that we work, like instead of having people completely hand it off, because that's also a problem too. It's like, this is a lifeblood of your business. You don't want to just have everything like over in an agency that you don't really have any communication with. But the other side, you shouldn't be the only one like really focusing on all of it yourself. So what we love to do is we have a process where we kind of do an ads done for you ad setup. So we're getting everything set up. We're making sure it's targeted the right way. It's all launched correctly. And then ongoing one-on-one support to help optimize and scale ads. That's the type of thing that I think is really good because you could have somebody on your team learning how it works, somebody on your team that can really focus on your own accounts, but also have them trained and backed up by an expert that's kind of like a senior media buyer optimizing and scaling. Now, again, that's not just there's not as many people doing that type of model, but I've actually found that that's kind of the best like model to look at. So in terms of you, like, I don't think you should be the one personally looking at all the metrics, but somebody should. And I would actually argue that that somebody should be on your team working with outside help to be able to support them. But that way you have it be as an internal capability, so you're not dependent on an outside agency either.
Well, I love that, and that's exactly what I believe. So really quickly, my main product we do is run webinars, but we get it to like hopefully 100K, nothing's guaranteed, and then we run it to an ads person. That's what we get a proven process, right? All the work that's the first branding, like just get them like no. It's a very big process. Like it's not easy. I tell everybody that. No, this can take some time. And sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes, depending on the copy and the niche and the trend and the funnel. But my point in saying that was I actually did that. It's your same model. I think that's the best model because when I went out and I got my first 65K consulting deal like years ago in Culver City, LA, the guy was coming out to basically connect him with my knowledge, my skill sets to do webinars for him. His name, All World Communications, Brian Murdoch. Thank you so much. He believed in me for anybody else. And what I did, we hired VAs to replace his internal team because he was on a hook all the time. So then it just made me, and I didn't know enough. Like they already had it. I think they had an ads team, but I would always be looking over the ad copy with these ad agencies and like helping them convert better. And then eventually I was like, oh, well, we can find cheaper labor that we can put inside. And now that's what I have for Nathaniel there. So I love that model instead of being, I know a lot of my ad buyers or ad agencies that I connect with, I know they want the clients and stuff, but I do think it's a better service model because if you look at any Fortune 500 company, they originally bring their marketing team in. So you're better off incentivizing it like, hey, we're going to do this already for you so you can cut costs, increase revenue, So, dude, that's awesome. Dude, I love that about your model. And definitely, we'll probably be doing some stuff pretty together soon, too, once everything gets caught up. Because I just, so many things I love about core values, this and how you run your business. I'm just a huge fan of good business and where you built out, So, okay, so what's your best, so we did best relationship tip, best money tip. what would you do to change the education system? So, I mean, I think you already did. You have half the people learned iPhone 7 from you. But I was a teacher. I always felt like I was leaving teaching when I built business. So I remember talking to the principal like, "Oh, I'm going to change the education system one day." I feel like selling some certain course online I have, but what would you do to change the education system now where we're currently at?
I think the thing that's missing is practical implementation, especially when it comes to entrepreneurship. So when I was at college, I actually was the president of the entrepreneurship club there, and I rolled out a version of like the startup weekend or 3 day startup, which was like a couple of different events. But I actually ended up doing our own version. I called it U Launch, and essentially it was like a weekend where we would actually empower people to launch a business in a weekend. And the entrepreneurship club put it on, but we would bring anybody from campus who wanted to come. It was actually funny. We would run ads to the event, so the dollars that we got for the ticket, we would also put like ads to get people to the event, which is hilarious too. So even thinking that entrepreneurial that way. But anyways, basically we had this event, and essentially we would be able to have people share their ideas. We kind of structured it like a hackathon. So everybody shared ideas. Then we voted on the top, certain amount of ideas. They formed teams. So maybe it's like 8 teams of 5 people. Those people would then actually all get funded by the sponsors that we had, right? So they would actually get, end of the time, right? It's like we get like $100, right? But they get $100 that they can use to buy materials. I would encourage people to sign up. I remember back, it's like, all right, sign up for ClickFunnels. The very early days of ClickFunnels, like I had just discovered it myself. Like, get a free trial and like use that and build on that and like do these different things. And so people would go and then they would work on the business over the weekend. A lot of people pulled all-nighters. Other people, but they'd basically have like 48 hours or whatever it is to work on the business. And then they'd all come back together and present their ideas. And then we'd have judges and prizes and things like that for the winning teams. But the thing that really struck me, and I'd always have this speech that I would say at the end, is like, this wasn't about the businesses that you created, even though there were some really great businesses. This is to show you that you can take a weekend and launch a new business and actually build something that can earn revenue. And the way that just changed people's minds there, I think was really the key. Is I think people think about it the wrong way, and I think that's something a lot of people could really benefit from. And maybe there's other practical things in other places, right? In software development, maybe it's coding a project or doing X, Y, and Z. But I think just opening people's minds to that there is this other possibility where they can actually build something and be entrepreneurial. That's really the key there. And then also some of those businesses went on to, continue throughout college and in some cases even after college. And I think one actually exited, which is great. And so like literally starting over the course of a weekend.
Yeah, dude, how does that make you feel when you're a little part of someone? Because that's kind of happened to me. I always inspire people, right, to do that. And not all businesses work, right? It's very tough. You got to be like a special type of, you have some God-given gifts to just keep going with it. But man, it must feel like, I know there was one guy when I was consulting, I wrote down on a paper, I was going to all his masterminds that he left. He was the CTO when I was consulting. The guy goes, well, Jayla quit or whatever like that because I inspired him to go start his own business. I did this twice within companies, right? And like one of the foremans, one of that, and I was like, "Oh, I better stop or I'm going to break up business." He's like, "No, it's better without him." The kid went and worked for someone. A's the company for millions. Like, dude, thank you so much for that pep talk. It happened, right? It makes me like, to me, that like warms my soul and everything because I think like that's like my purpose being here, right? To inspire others always to go out to their God-given dream. All right, so. Listen, great time with you. I wish there was more time. We'll have to, when I'm in studio room Miami, we'll do it again. By the way, if you haven't followed this guy or seen him, follow him. Where can they follow you? Where can people find more about you, Alec?
Yeah, so you can just look up my name on all the major, social media platforms, including YouTube. Of course, YouTube, I'm posting a lot of content. But I also have my book, Video Authority. You can get it at videoauthoritybook.com or just look up Video Authority on Amazon. I spent the last 3 years on it. I put all of my expertise and wisdom into this book. I wanted to make it a really powerful, impactful book. And then if people are interested to learn more about our marketing services, you can go to adoutreach.com/apply. And I have a free gift for everybody. It's more focused around YouTube ads because sometimes I'll dive deeper into that. We didn't talk as much about that here, but if you want to learn our YouTube ad strategy that's generated hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue, you can go to adoutreach.com/gift. It a 19-page YouTube ad strategy PDF, as well as a free training that goes along with it.
By the way, I don't know. I have another one, but really quick, because you're right, we didn't talk about that. because I'm more of a personal guy.
Oh, no, which is perfectly fine. But just if people want to go and take it and run with it.
Okay.
Extra
All right. Well,
resources.
then good. There's definitely more than I do these little workshops here at my place every month. Whenever you're down here, we'll do something more. I look forward, man, to doing more with you. Nathaniel, this might be the guy and team coaching us going forward. Or Nathaniel's the guy he's doing our Facebook. Like, he looks over all the numbers, right? He's good at everything. And he's the one who does the edits. So thank you so much, Nathaniel. Guys, thank you so much for listening in. The Make More Money podcast. Tune in next week as we have a special guest again that you've seen and everybody will know. Talk to you soon. Thanks.
Thank you.